All right, guys, welcome back to Hawk Talk on Melrose. Changed it up a little bit this week. I'm gonna introduce the podcast this week. I told Collin beforehand, I'm like, God, you ever gonna let me get to do this job for
Yeah,
once or what?
you gotta feel special once in a while, right?
Oh, okay.
Hey,
Well,
and
I appreciate it. I mean, I now that I'm a full time, you know, part of the pod, I feel like we gotta mix it up a little bit once in a while.
yeah, no kidding. And hey, guess what? It
What's
is
that?
August 3rd. So what are we officially in a month gonna be doing?
I'll, it's gonna be a little bit more fun in 4 weeks, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll be about this
Well,
time we'll be
it'll be the
hopefully celebrating a dub and around this time watching some college football at night. So I'm looking forward to it.
Labor Day weekend. My birthday September 5th as well, so it's gonna be it'd be an awesome birthday gift if we get a nice little victory.
Oh yeah. And then the week after as well. I'd rather get a victory.
Yep.
Well, I obviously,
Well,
yeah, losing that first game would suck, but I really want to win that next game too. Style game.
for
So,
sure.
so what's going on, everybody? It was kind of nice having you lead the intro. I didn't have to worry about doing that.
Yeah.
We got some topics that we're going to talk about tonight as we are officially, like a month away from Iowa football, and we're 1 week away from week 0, so that'll be coming up here soon as well. So we're just going to get into offense. That's going to be the main topic today. Offensive struggles, what we see and how we see it. I'm going to provide 4 things that are realistic, that aren't like oh well, I mean anyone can think that, or that's too easy. Like 4 realistic things that I really do think that if we just minorly tweaked on the offense, I think we would be much better. So I'm going to give that to you guys. So Tyler, you'll be able to kind of hear that, because I haven't actually told Tyler that. And then we're going to get into, similar to last week, we played that game of the schedule difficulty 12 through 1. We're going to do our top 10 Iowa players for this year. And so 10, obviously the number one, like the MVP. And when I was doing this, Tyler, actually, like, yes, I was picking the top 10 Iowa players, but a couple players were more like, they're very valuable for us. They're good and they're very valuable. So I'm putting them in the top 10. So we're going to be doing that later on in the show. And then if we have time, we always say this, we'll do the Big Ten East over and unders, because we have not gotten around to doing that last podcast or even the podcast before. So we only have 45 minutes. We're on a tight budget here. We can't go over 45 minutes. So if we start kind of getting close to that, which I'm sure we will, we're probably gonna have to do it again or do it next week. So, I mean, here's the thing. The way I look at it is, after this podcast, we got 4 more podcasts until the first game, I think. Yeah, 4 more. So that fourth one, we're gonna obviously, that's gonna be going into the game. So we'll be obviously just pre-gaming that, that game, talk South Dakota State, giving our prediction, blah, blah, blah. But so before that, though, we're gonna have 3 full weeks after this week of, we'll have, we'll talk, camp news, different things like that. We'll come up with some things to talk about, but I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to do that if we don't get around doing it today. So that's kind of the agenda for the next few weeks. So,
Well, and like today, if we're talking offense,
yeah,
we might not be able to get to the Big Ten East rankings.
We might not even get to the top 10 Iowa players.
Well,
no, I'm just kidding. But maybe. So yeah, let's get into the offense. Tyler, scale of 1 to 10, how great was the offense last year? 10 being so great, you fainted because it was so awesome. Well, 1 being so bad that you still fainted because it was so bad.
Yeah, there's quite the distinction there. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I would have to legitimately, if I'm taking the whole season, I would have to go like a 2. Legitimately, like a 2.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
I can't go a 1 because we won games in spite of the off, but that's the thing. We won in spite of our offense, so I have to give it a 2.
Yeah, it was terrible. I mean, I think the only legit game that I thought we actually played well was the Maryland game offensively. But even that game, like, the defense did a lot of stuff for us.
It also helps when you have 7 interceptions or whatever it was.
So the second quarter of the Iowa State game, you can make the case that was a really good quarter. We played really well. I mean, there was bits and pieces throughout the But yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I'm not going to give it a 1 because it wasn't like it
No.
was. No, I mean, it was horrible, but like a 1 would be like so bad that we never put
I
up points.
mean,
And well, we kind of did.
well,
Really
we
put up
wouldn't
points
we
either,
wouldn't even
so.
win. So yeah. And
So,
we won games, so you have to, yeah.
Yep. So kind of my summary of last year, because it's a new year. Let's forget last year, because I truly think, and I'm not just saying this, but I do think that the offense will be much better this year. I do think, and we were talking about this last year where, we were kept saying, changes, but we're like, it's not going to change throughout the course of the season. We literally have to get to the off season because a lot of the stuff, I mean, it's so bad that you just can't change these things overnight. And so from week to week, it was just one of those things where it's like, we just have to live with it until the end of the year. But I do think that they're not saying major changes, but there's probably things that they are fixing because it was that bad. And I'm sure the coaches were pretty embarrassed by, what took place last year. You would hope anyway. So I do think that there will be some changes and hopefully the offense is a lot better. But this is my summary of last year. I think the offense, and this is like so true, the offense was a ticking time bomb that we literally, like our business model last year of the entire team was have your defense be absolutely perfect and your special teams absolutely perfect every single game in order to win you that said game. That's a losing concept over time. It'll help you out, one game here, one game there, but over time, if that's your business model of your defense, you got to make sure your defense is playing their absolute best, special teams absolute best. Like I said, it's a losing concept over time.
Well, 100%, because your defense and special teams are not going to be 100% perfect over the course of an entire season. There's going to be certain games where you look at Purdue. Purdue has a little bit of success against our defense, especially through the air. They can move the ball. I mean, they had only 27 or 24, whatever it was, points, but they had like 400 some total yards of offense. And again, a lot of that is the offensive fault, but they do have a little bit of success against our defense. So our defense wasn't perfect that day, and look what happened. I mean, you get, like I always say, it's like when Iowa gets down by more than, I would say when Iowa gets down by double digit points, 10 points feels like 100
game's
points.
over. Yeah.
Yeah, it just does.
It's like the Michigan game. I mean, we got blown out, but at halftime, we were literally the score was like 14-3 at half, which for most teams, like that's really nothing. I mean, right. But for us, it felt like the game was over.
And again, you can make the argument. You've got the Penn State game where we were down, I think, was it double digits where we came back, but there's a backup quarterback in. So
and it was at home.
And it was at home.
You almost felt like something was gonna click at some point.
Right. And so overall, I agree with what you said. I mean, over time, it's a recipe for failure, honestly.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a losing. And that's why, like last year, even though we went 10-2 or, we were winning these games and we were 6-0, number 2 in the country, you just felt because of how bad our offense was that at some point it was just going to explode. And then literally the next game against Purdue, that exactly happened. So that is a summary of last year. We were a ticking time bomb on offense because we were so bad. We relied on our defense, we relied on our special teams, and sooner rather than later, it was just gonna come back to haunt you. And that's exactly what happened. That's the reason, even though we got to 10 wins, it felt like it wasn't a 10-win season. We ended up losing the last 2 games, and things like that. So that is a summary of last year. So what is, and we asked this question a lot. I'm going to start off with this before we get into stuff. What is our identity on offense? Because in my eyes, I mean, it could be a lot of different things. Is it, running the football? I mean, I'm sure it probably is our identity. Is it winning the time of possession? Well, I mean, that can't be it because Kentucky had 37 minutes of time of possession against us. I know that was only one game, but it does feel like, but is that our identity? Because most games, we do win the time of possession. Is it, being conservative as possible to reduce the number of mistakes, which really isn't a bad, that shouldn't be your main identity, but that should be an identity if you're in, if you want to be that way. I mean, think about it. That's the reason why we have, beaten Iowa State, 6 times and Nebraska 6 or 7 times is because, they are making mistakes. I mean, you go back and watch some of those games, they're the one, and that's the reason why Iowa State, they get a couple.
We win the turnover battle in those games.
And so
we do.
So is it that? I mean, I truly don't know what our identity is. I do think though, if you ask Kirk Ferentz, like if you sat down with them and you're like, hey, Kirk, what is our true offensive identity? Because I really don't know what it is. He would tell you, starts, offensive line play, good offensive line play, physical, boys of the Big Ten. And then, you with the main emphasis of running first, then everything kind of follows it. And I think that's a great identity, but you got to be good at that identity. If that's going to be your identity, which I'm pretty sure it is, you better be good. And we're not really. So yeah.
Right. I mean, you got to be able to execute that, and you got to be able to, if that's your game plan, like what we maybe thought it was last year, offensive line wasn't that great.
No.
The run game wasn't great. And
Even though we had
obviously
a good
the pass game is not going to be great. So,
yeah.
right.
Even though we had a good, I mean, we've had, and that's the thing, like, and I'm going to share some stats here soon, but like our rushing yards per game is terrible, over the course of the last 5 years. And it's like, how can that be when we've had some good running backs? We've had Akron Wadley, Mekhi Sargent, Tyler Goodson. I mean, like what's the scoop here? And it's not like our offensive line, our offensive line wasn't that great last year, but it's still better than some of the offensive line units out there, so it's like, what is it?
I think it has a little bit to do with just maybe the style of play too. Obviously we are, we're not your prototypical college football team on offense compared to a lot of teams that spread it out, that, do a variety of different things, change it up a little bit. We're pretty, I mean, I don't want to say this in like a negative term necessarily, but like we're pretty basic and vanilla in what we do. Like I feel like most teams kind of know what to expect when they play Iowa.
Yeah. And, and like, that's the thing, like, the zone blocking scheme, we've said from time to time, like we need to, get rid of that, or at least not do it as very much. And that's like one of those things when I was saying before, I'm going to give you my 4. That's not one of them, because it's like, it's just too easy to say it.
Right.
We've been doing it for 20 years. It's not going to change.
No,
get over
I
it.
Agree.
So,
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, that could be a reason, is it because we are, I don't know. But it is unfortunate. So I'm going to actually share my screen right now for the guys on YouTube, for anyone that watches on YouTube. Obviously, people listening won't be able to see this, but I will say what I'm going to say here. So I'm going to share this.
We are on YouTube as well. So
yeah, and I like it. If you prefer, to obviously listen on whatever you need to listen to, that's great. But YouTube is a good option. You can see our beautiful faces and see this. So here we go. Can you see this, Tyler, or not?
Yeah.
See, I've never done this before. Okay.
Yep, you're good.
So I took an average. So Brian Ferentz has obviously been offensive coordinator from 2017, 2021. So 5 seasons. And I just took, each season and did an average. So rushing yards per game, we averaged about 142 yards. And that's, like I said, in the course of 5 years. And our average was 87th in the country. That's not very good if that's your identity. Our passing game, which is very not surprising. A little over 200 yards, 88th in the country. Yards per completion, which I think is kind of a telling sign, because if it's lower, that means you're not throwing it downfield, you're not attacking. A little over 11 yards per completion at 78th. Points per game, 62nd, a little over 27 points per game. Yards per game, literally in the triple digits. Like, come on, 345 yards. Yards per play, we're 94th, only 5 yards. This one, touchdowns per game by the offense. So, we obviously sometimes score a lot, but it's because of the defense, getting, pick sixes, things like that, or special team plays. Little over, close to 3 touchdowns per game by the offense, which is 77th in the country. And then third down conversion percentage, which is a huge thing in college and NFL. You need to convert third downs. 79th. So you look at all this and you're like, okay, if, take like my job, and if these were my results, I'm like bottom of the barrel on everything, after 5 years, I don't think I would have my job. And I'm not calling Brian, I'm not saying that he shouldn't have this job, but it's something that you need to look at and be like, okay, what is going on? Like, because like for me, if I did keep my job, I would feel like at some point I would say to myself, okay, yeah, what we're doing is not working. Like, this is not working. I mean, we are literally, there's not one category where we're above 62. Like, that's not very good.
No, and honestly, what's kind of crazy, and I haven't seen this, this stat sheet yet. So I'm looking at it right now, and we give so much shit about our passing game, the rushing is one tick better, literally one spot
Yeah.
better. So
And
I mean,
even though
it
that
just
should be
goes
your identity. I
right,
mean, that's what's
right. And
just
so when you think of Iowa football, you think of running the football, physical, and we're not doing a great job of that under Brian Ferentz right now, as you're kind of laying
no.
out. So that's surprising.
Yeah, it's just something, like I said, I'm not calling for his job because I do like Brian. I mean, I've listened to that podcast that Chad Lastico had with him, and he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and but it's just at some point you gotta change
Yeah,
if
you got to be able
this
to
stuff is
show
not.
improvement.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then down here, this is I also put, this shouldn't be here. But so in 61 games, I am missing so in the last 5 years under Brian Ferentz, our record is like 43-18, and we're 3-1 in bowl games. So for how bad our offense is, I mean, that's pretty damn good. I mean, we're compared to some programs out there, we're doing a pretty good job. So in those 61 games under Brian Ferentz, the defense gave up 25 or more points only 9 times. Only 9 times. 60. I mean, that is less than 15% gave up more than 25 points. And 25 points really isn't that much. We have a 3-6 record in those 9 games when our defense gave up 25 or more. And you can see here, some of these games, it wasn't even that much more than 25. Like, 2021, 27 at Wisconsin, 2018, 28 against Wisconsin. And then the bottom, 30s, 38. But yeah, 3-6. So those were the losses. I didn't put the wins in that we won, getting over 25 points. But that just kind of goes to show that when our defense gives up more than 25 points, our offense, I mean, we're more than 50% likely we're not going to win that game. So that's kind of one of those things. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. But yeah, so
I mean, yeah, when you average what you just showed it, when you average 3 offensive touchdowns a game, if your defense isn't getting those turnovers or getting a pick 6, and you're not getting to 25, that's only 21. So obviously you count field goals and stuff like that, but you get the point I'm trying to make. So
yep. So what do we do now? So this is where I'm going to give you my 4, and I know you're wanting me to tell you it yesterday, and I was like, no, wait till the podcast.
I'll have to find out right now.
Like I said, they're for some people listening, it's like, yeah, I mean, that should be, I mean, that's common sense, or yeah, and I get that. Like, and then and also I want to make this point too is and I think I said this a lot last year, when me and you say we need to revamp the offense, we're not talking a total revamp where it's like, get rid of, pro style offense. Like I had one person this weekend at the wedding I went to said that they're like, we need to get to spread offense. It's like, no, it's not who we are. I'm fine with the pro style offense. I'm fine with that. Okay. But what I'm not fine with is some of these things I'm going to lay out. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to give it to you. So number 1, this is like the biggest thing that really annoys me with our offense. And I really do think if we change this, like literally just change this a little bit, we'd be much better. So I'm tired of seeing defenses not respect our pass game, which they shouldn't. I mean, they should not respect our pass game. So what do? They load the box, 8, 9, sometimes 10 guys in the box, and we still run at them more times than not, off tackle on the short side of the field. But regardless, we run at them. The way I look at it, if a team's not going to respect you and they're putting 8, 9, 10 guys in the box, that's when you ditch what you're wanting to do and say, okay, we're going to attack these motherfuckers and we're going to go downfield. I'm not saying like, throw it downfield, but like attack downfield,
yeah,
make them be like, okay, we better account for this and we better stop, loading and then at that point you can then go back to trying to power run, physical run, because at that point, then they're going to have to respect your passing game. They're going to have to respect that. So that's number 1. Do you think that's a good number 1? I mean, like I said, it's common 100%. Sense, but I do think because it just,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, continue. Sorry.
Well, I was sorry. No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say, I think we talked about this last year.
Yeah,
At what point are you just going to take a shot when you've got, because if they load the box, you're going to have man coverage on the outside. So it's 1-on-1. At what point do you say, maybe instead of running, like you said, to the short side of the field for -4 yards, do we just try something downfield where it's 50-50 if our guy's going to come down with it or not? to me, it's not that complicated, but I agree. We need to be able
It's
to look at a defense and go, we are not going to get any yards here if we run the football right now.
and like I said, I don't blame defenses that load the box against us because
Do you think that's
our offense.
like Brian Ferentz not allowing Petrus to kind of like check out of that and do that? I mean, is that on Brian Ferentz? Or is
See,
that
and that's
just
the thing. It doesn't seem like we do a lot of checking out of plays. It
because
seems
I
like
do feel like we're like super conservative and we want to keep everything like so. Yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
I know.
It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
All right, number 2, and this is like once again very common, or like it's something that you're like, yeah, it's should but tired of being. And you're gonna be like,
I feel like I know one of these.
Well, no, I'm tired of being conservative as hell. And what I mean by this is I'm going to give you two examples for you and the listeners. The Kentucky game, 6 minutes left. We were up. We go 3 and out, 3 straight run plays. Okay. We punt the ball. They get the ball back. They end up having to punt. Then we get it again with 3 minutes left, still up. At that point, all we really need is a first down. And it's over. 2 first downs, and it's definitely over. Mm-hmm. What do? 3 and out, 3 straight run plays. Problem I have with this is I went back and watched the highlights, or literally watched that game. It's on YouTube. The full game's on YouTube. So I went back and watched a lot of that game. That last drive, the first down play, we got 6 yards, which is great. Second down play, Kentucky had 8 guys in the box with both safeties playing about 6 to 7 yards back. So they were pretty much lined up almost where the linebackers are. I mean, and then the third down, they had not 8, not 10. They had 10 guys in the box, all playing the inside. Wow. And so what do? We run the ball 3 straight times. Perfect opportunity to do a bootleg, to do a play action, to do a pass rollout, or hell, do a pitch play. Because like I said, that third down, they were, you can go back and watch it. I mean, I should share my screen and go to that play, but don't have time. But It is literally like, but what do? We do this 3 straight, like the same exact run plays. All right, another example, the Wisconsin game, 3rd and 2, we do a fullback dive. They had 9 guys in the box. We call a timeout, 4th and 1. We do the same exact play after a timeout, a fullback dive. Once again, they had 9 guys in the box with the 10th guy playing really far up. And we just try to do our thing. And so so my second point is just trying, being conservative as hell sometimes, which can be fine, but there are times where you need to take chances. You need to do what is right and what is, probably going to work versus just trying to, I don't know, because like even that Kentucky game all year, what's one thing that has worked, especially with Petrus, is quarterback sneaks. So why on that 3rd down and 1 did we not do a quarterback sneak there? I mean, it probably would have got the first down. I mean, so it just seems like sometimes we just try too hard to do things and just try to be conservative as hell. So that's my second point. Pretty,
Yeah, I think along with that, just real quick, I think it's you got to play to win the game. And sometimes I feel like we get too conservative, too predictable, and a game like Kentucky happens. So
yep, exactly. And then number 3, this one is pretty, letting the great players make big time plays for you. And what I mean by that is, and this goes back, course of how many years, but like last year, Keegan Johnson, he's a big time player that will make big time plays. Hell, we saw it, numerous times last year where, like the Minnesota game, it was that screen that got blown up. 2 guys were tackling him. He gets out of that, goes for 30 yards for a touchdown. The Penn State game, I don't know if you remember this, but the only reason I remember this is because I went back and watched video.
Oh, I remember.
Did like a 6-yard curl, caught it,
broke to the outside.
Yep, broke like 3 tackles, gained like 30 yards.
Yep.
And so that's what I mean by like, getting your guys that are really, really good and that are going to make big time plays. It seems like sometimes we underutilize guys. Here's two other examples. Brandon Smith, I thought it was a stud for us, and I just thought we underutilized the crap out of him. And there were times where we would throw his way and he would make the most ridiculous catches. And it's like, why aren't we doing this more often? Another example. What?
I remember that Penn State
game where yep. I'm pretty sure that was on Monday Night Football. Like you got Moss.
Yeah, it was.
Another example is Tyler Goodson in the passing game. I always thought that he was very elusive. He had great hands. We could have done what kind of the Packers do with Aaron Jones and just get him involved in the passing game. We did it like one time last year, and that was against the Maryland game, and he literally caught it, made one move, 50 yards. And I just felt like we underutilized him in that game. Do you know how many? I'm just gonna and just give it a guess. How many receptions Keegan Johnson had last year?
I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess 20. I don't know. 20.
He had 18. That's
okay.
it. 18
I was
receptions.
gonna say it can't be more than 20, 25 is what I was gonna say, but that's sad, honestly.
18 receptions in 10 games. So
we never threw the wide receivers though.
No.
I mean, I'd be shocked if I know other receivers are gonna have a little bit more, but I mean, just in general, we do. You're right, though. We have a tough time getting our playmakers involved.
Yep. It just, like I said, that's less than two catches a game. And granted, I would have to go back and look how many targets, because I'm sure targets are up there. But even that, it's like you gotta get these guys. I mean, you gotta get him. So 18 receptions for a stud. And granted, he was a freshman. I get that. So like I said, going in this year, if it's kind of a similar story where it's like, I'm going to be pretty annoyed. Cause like I said, last year, you can make the case he was a freshman, but he was a great freshman. And we saw that numerous times. And it's like, okay, let's take advantage of this. Okay. And then the fourth one, this one is one I really was, thought of today. And it was because I read an article and it really made me think of how important it is getting the tight ends more involved. And I was reading Chad Lassicow, who does Hawk Central. He had an article today, and like I said, it really struck home to me. So back in 2018, we went 9-4, which is a pretty good year. But our 4 losses were combined 23 points, and that involved Penn State, Wisconsin, Northwestern, and Purdue. So we were literally 23 points away from having an undefeated season. And then not only that, but we had some pretty impressive wins. We put up 48 points at Minnesota, 42 points at Indiana, 36 at Purdue. We still lost that game. That was one game where our defense just played like crap. And that was like one game where you'd be like, yeah, our offense outperformed our defense. And then we put up 63 points at Illinois. So that was actually that year, our offense was actually pretty good. Nate Stanley had a great year. But what was the reason why our offense was so good? It was because we had Noah Fant and TJ Hawkinson. And I saw this stat that Chad put on, 63% of the snaps that year, we had 2 tight end sets. And I'm not saying Sam Laporta and Luke Lachey are going to be, Noah Fant and TJ Hawkinson, but they're really good. I mean, Sam Laporta might be the best tight end in the Big Ten. And then they might be one of the best duos in the Big Ten. I just feel like the tight end position is a position where, as a defense, you don't really know. If you have a 2 tight end set, okay, are they running the football? Are they gonna be involved in the passing game? It's hard for matchup wise. I mean, you get a smaller linebacker on a guy that's 6'6", 6'7", or a slower linebacker. Like, it's very hard. And like Chad put in the article, if a defense goes bigger, well, time to throw the ball. They go smaller, then you run it. And that's kind of what happened in the Ohio State game back in 2017, is that's exactly what we did. And so I really do think you get the tight ends more involved. Like last year, we didn't really get Laporta. I mean, besides that last game, we didn't really get Laporta involved. And then,
I think I looked real quick. I think I looked, and I could be wrong about this, but I think he only had for none of our wide receivers having that many catches, you'd think our tight end would have a shit ton. I think he only had 50 catches.
50, yeah.
Which I mean
he had over
600
yards. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. So when you get him the ball, I mean, he's sure-handed, he's reliable. Good things are happening.
Yep.
But I agree. Utilizing a 2 tight end set, especially with our pro style of offense that we do, I think is clearly shown to be effective in the past.
Yeah. And then not only that, but Chad also put, and I thought it was so true, in terms of points too. In 2021, I don't know if you knew this, but we ranked 128th out of 130 FBS teams in touchdown percentage inside the red zone. We were at 40%. So 40% of the time when we're in the red zone, we scored. So 60% of the time we didn't.
That's insane.
In 2018, we were 25th in the country, which is so good. I would take that any day of the week.
Oh my
God. And we were close to 70%. Fan and Hawkinson combined for 14 of those touchdowns. And so once again, you get close to the goal line. You have two tight ends out there. What are they doing? Are they, running? Right. Are they so? And then not only that, but like I said, they're big. Luke Lachey, like I said, is 6'6", 6'7". Laporta's pretty big. He's 6'4".
Throw it up.
Throw it up and let them make.
That's
plays.
Where you utilize red zone is where you utilize your tight ends. I mean, for matchup purposes, like you were describing. So for sure.
Yep. So those are the four things, and I just think, like I said, they're things that are realistic, that aren't hard to do. And I really do think if you did these four things, our offense would be a little bit better. I'm not in, like I said, it'd be so easy just to be like, well, get a dual threat quarterback, but right now it's just, that's unrealistic thing to say because it's not going to happen. Or, change up the offense. Well, but these things are realistic things that can happen. The way I look at it going into this season, I'm going to wrap it up here. Because once again, we're running out of time and we want to do our top 10 players. I just think we have the pieces in place to solve this puzzle. We have the talent at the skill positions. We have a great tight end duo. Our offensive line should be better. Now, the question is our quarterback. I get that. But at least whatever quarterback it is, the person's going to be experienced. So in my eyes, simplify the game for whoever it is. If it's Petrus or if it's Padilla, play to their strengths, their experience at least, and that's what's going to help. But everything else, you have the pieces in place to be a decent offense. I'm not saying you have to be a great offense or you have to be, Oregon or Alabama type offense. You just got to be, with the defense that we have, you just got to be good or like average, and good things will happen. I mean, like literally, that's what we need to do.
I don't think I need to add anything. I think you kind of said it perfectly right there.
Yeah. So honest. That well, I'm going to just one last thing. So what are do you think those four things are good? Do you have anything to branch off of that? Or anything like that?
I think also, I was going to say, I think when I said before, I was like, I feel like I could guess one of them. And I'm trying to remember if this was right or not. And if it wasn't there like some stat? I don't know if it was last year or what, but it was like the amount of times we like ran predictably on first down or something.
Oh yeah.
It's like, can we not do that every time?
And that might
help a little bit, because we always would get back on second. It'd be second and long like every other time,
and that kind of
going to kill your offensive drive right there.
Yep. And that kind of goes back to that first point that I made, where it's like, because usually on first down, that's when teams really load the box against us, and that's what happens.
Part of that for sure. Yeah.
Yep. That's
when
what
I
happened.
Thought of that. I'm like, oh my God, that drove us freaking nuts. I know that.
I have some other things to say about the offense. I'll jot them down and I'll remember, because obviously we're going to have time the next couple podcasts to really talk about it. I do want to get into, I know you kind of made the point, you brought it up about the kicking game. And so, and how, new kicker, that might, so we'll get into all that more next Wednesday as well. So, because we're about 10-ish, 12 minutes left of this podcast. So we're going to do the top 10 Iowa players. We're going to start, Tyler, with you at number 10.
All right. So yeah, this is kind of a tough list to do. I mean,
it was
especially kind of ordering them. I mean, it maybe wasn't so hard getting. I mean, when you get to 9, 10, it is tough, but like even just the ordering is tough. But at number 10, this is a little tough for me. I'm actually going, because I wanted to try to include an offensive lineman. When you think of Iowa football, you think of offensive linemen, all the great ones. And, obviously our offensive line, besides Linderbaum last year, wasn't great. But I think one of the up and coming, stars could be a guy like Mason Richmond. He's going to be our left tackle. He was starting left tackle last year. He was pretty good. He missed a few games when he was injured, and you definitely noticed, when he wasn't there. So I've got him at number 10. He earned all freshman Big Ten honors last year, so I've got him at 10.
Nice. I was thinking that you were going to pick this person. I'm going to say, because I know you brought it up on Sunday to me when I was just like hinting, and I acted like I didn't have him, but I actually did. Is Jimani Harris.
Harris.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the next like really good corner for us. He came in kind of halfway last season, and that first game against Wisconsin, he had 7 tackles. At Northwestern, he had 3 solo tackles, an interception. I can just go down the list of like every game that he played in. Michigan game had an interception. Nebraska game had an interception. Kentucky game, he had 6 tackles, 3 solos, interception. So the dude's a stud.
Yep.
And he's
Oh,
gonna
for sure.
and it sucks that he's gonna be out the first game, but at least we're not, we're playing South Dakota State, and hopefully
Right.
I don't, choke those words, but like, we
Yeah.
should be fine with like Terry Roberts or whoever's gonna start, but the guy's gonna be a stud for us. All right, number 9.
Number 9, I'm going Lucas Van Ness. So I mean, he's
Gonna be a
he's a
stud.
backup. He's a backup right now. Defense, like I think he moved the defensive end, but like last year he had 7 sacks as a redshirt freshman, and he's an athletic freak. I mean, we've kind of talked about that.
Yeah.
I think he is for sure a top 10 player on this team right now.
Yeah, he had 7 sacks and like 33 tackles, and he really didn't even play that much last year. I mean, he
No,
did, but
that's
he
what I mean.
didn't. So like,
And he's
yeah,
still
dude,
he's still a backup this year. So
Yeah.
and he will see more playing time for sure this year.
dude's a freak, and he moved over to DN in the spring, and I think that's a great position where he's at.
I do too.
Number 9 for me, I have Kayvon Merriweather. I thought last year that was his first year in. Showed glimpses of being really good. Now he's kind of the leader of this team, of the defense, especially. He got invited to go to Big Ten Media Days. I think he's really gonna, from last year to this year, really turn it on. I think he's gonna be a stud for us. He's gonna be, once again, talking defensive backs, next really good safety for us.
For sure.
So
he's a leader in the back end for sure.
Yep. Number 8.
Number 8, I went another defensive lineman. I went Joe Evans. Again, 7 sacks last year as a DN.
He is really good. He's someone that you don't really think about, but he is really good.
He shows up like every time when you look at like rushing the quarterback, which again is few and far between. He's a guy that pops up on your screen, I feel like, every time. And honestly, I think just doesn't get the credit he deserves. But again, it's another defensive lineman where, we definitely have it's a little bit of our stronger suit, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. I remember seeing it, and but because he is going to be, I mean, he's, like I said, very underrated player for us. Number 8 for me, and like I said, this goes kind of back to like, I feel like this list, yes, it is top 10 Iowa players, but it can also kind of be like most valuable. Number 8 is Tori Taylor. It's weird putting a punter in there, but man, he is a stud. I mean, last year he had, I forgot what the percentage of the punts inside the own 20. Like it's unbelievable. The guy is so good. Averaged over like 46 yards per punt. He puts our defense in great situations, especially when our offense does something stupid. And I remember the Iowa State game, for example. We were backed up. Our offense didn't even 3 and out, backed up, and he kicks like a 70, 80-yard bomb. And, things like that. I mean, that's how you win games. And so dude's really good. And I'm glad, he's still on our team, because prior to Tory, we had some troubles in the punting game. And so having someone like that is awesome.
For sure.
All right. Numbers, are we on 7? Number 7?
Yeah. Number 7. Number 7, I went Justin Jacobs. Part of the trio of linebackers that is, clearly our strongest suit coming into the season. If you look at any position group, offense, defense, special teams, I mean, 6'4", 240 pounds, athletic as hell. And I just think, clearly he's a top 10 player.
So I have the other linebacker, Jack Campbell. No, I'm just kidding. Seth Benson, I have at number 7.
Okay.
105 total tackles from last year. Another guy who's out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, had no scholarship offers. All right, no D1 especially. And he really has turned into a nice player for us, and he's really good. Very underrated. Another very underrated, because you think of, Justin Jacobs, Jack Campbell, you kind of forget about Seth Benson.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6.
Number 6, I actually went Keegan Johnson. So I was struggling with this. It's hard for me to judge it, because again, like you said, 18 catches last year. But when he got the ball in his hands, he clearly showed why he's coming into this season going to be our number 1 wide receiver. He just makes plays, get him the ball in any way that you can, and he has a knack for breaking tackles and breaking off long runs after the catch. So I've got him at number 6.
Number 6 for me, Lucas Van Ness. I mean, we already talked about it. Dude's a freak, and I mean, hell, he has a 6-pack. I mean, for a defense lineman, I mean, the dude's good. Number 5.
I went Sam Laporta. He's clearly Spencer Petras' safety blanket. He could have went to the NFL last year, but decided to come back. Another great Iowa tight end. I've got him at 5.
Number 5 for me, I have Keegan Johnson. 19.6 yards per reception. He's everything that you want as a receiver. Now you got to utilize him. Going back to what we were talking before. Number 4.
Number 4, I've got Tori Taylor.
Okay, so
I've got
you did have Tory Taylor too. I thought maybe I would be the only one to have him because
no, I put him as high as 4 because he is one of the best punters that Iowa's had in forever, and the dude, just like our defense, helps us win games in ways that we would not be able to do if he wasn't our punter. So I've got him at 4.
So I'm curious, you already said Porta, you already said Justin Jacobs. Like, I'm curious to what your, obviously, Jack's going to be on there, Riley, but I wonder who your other one is. I'm kind of curious. Number 4 for me, Justin Jacobs. The one thing that he kind of struggled with last year is the passing coverage. And I know that's something that he talked about in the offseason that he needs to improve on. And if he can improve on that, man, he is the complete package at linebacker. The dude is very good. And I think he's going to have a great year. Probably, I think he's a junior, so say goodbye to him because I do think he's going to go on the NFL. Dude's that good. So, yeah, number 3.
So this is where I and this is me just, again, I'm thinking about the position group and how good it is. I have Seth Benson at number 3, just a productive player. Okay. Productive player, 105 tackles, 2 sacks, 6 pass breakups, a pick. He kind of, again, similar to Jack, did it all at the linebacker position. So I've got him at 3. Yeah.
3 for me is Riley Moss. So glad he came back. I mean, if he didn't come back, would we have been in trouble? No, we had Jimani and Tori or Terry Roberts and some other guys that are, I think, like freshmen, like TJ Hall, guys like that, that could easily replace. But just having him is just awesome because he is very good and he makes, once again, I've said it a lot tonight, big time plays, gets key interceptions, and he's just a dude. And I'm so glad he decided to come back. Number 2,
I got Riley. So
yep.
Basically what you just said, he's going to be a leader for the secondary and helping, some of the younger D-backs that might be getting some playing time this year, definitely helping them out too. So
yeah. The number 2, I have Sam Laporta. I just think, offensively speaking, he is a huge piece. I didn't really think much about this when after the season he came back, but the more I think about it, it's like, man, thank God he is coming back because he's going to be a huge piece for us. He had over 670 yards last year, 53 receptions, 3 touchdowns, and that's with kind of underutilizing him. So you utilize the shit out of him, he's going to be really good for us. And once again, like I said, I'm very happy because, like I said, at the time, I didn't really think. I mean, I was like, oh, nice, he's coming back. But then you start watching highlights from last year and you start, the guy is really good. Could have easily went to the NFL. So, and then at number 1, probably, this is a very tough one.
Yeah, I got Spencer. No, I'm just kidding. I got Jack Campbell. So
hey, I
production and leadership. I mean, the guy, I think, calls out a lot of the signals and stuff like that for the defense, gets everyone in the right position. The stats are crazy, like 143 tackles, a pick 6. Like he gives me the confidence that I know our defense is going to be very good again this year.
And not only that, but like what I've been reading, he's gotten bigger, he's gotten stronger, he's gotten faster. Like it's going to be, I mean, and going back to, and then like you have him, and like what I was saying about Justin Jacobs, if he gets better in the passing game, and then obviously with Cash, I am very high on Cooper DeJean. I can't wait for he's going to be, I feel like, he's going to be really good for us. So, maybe next year when we're doing the top 10, he'll be on there. So I had 2 offensive players, 8 defense, or well, I guess 7 defense, and then 1, special team, which, considering the fact that our defense is really, really good and our offense is pretty average, below average. Yeah. I mean, that makes more sense. And, I was thinking, could we put a running back, but it's just too hard for right now to put a running back just because we don't know. But I do think Gavin and LaShawn are going to be really good for us, but it's just too early. So.
Yep. I'm right there with you.
So we are, like I said, running out of time. We're not going to get around to doing Big Ten East over and unders, but we will do that next podcast because, like I said, we'll have 3 weeks now before the first game or that podcast that we'll talk about the first game. So we'll have plenty of time. So that is it for this podcast. We are, like I said, coming up this weekend on 28 days from kickoff and 21 days from college football starting with the Nebraska game. So, Tyler, as always, great time, and we will talk to you guys later, and go Hawks.
Peace.